And first of all, that shirt is dope.
Come on, Tim.
What is that?
It is dope.
BET for Michigan. Oh my man, that's it, bro. Okay, you the only Michigan fan on this episode, B-Dirt. How you feeling after watching them win the national title game?
Man, Cloud nine. You know, I actually yesterday I had to put my phone away yesterday afternoon because I had so many people hitting me up. A lot of congratulatory stuff. Friends in Houston calling me. I had friends from back home. Congratulations. I had Ohio State fans congratulating me. I had Ohio State fans saying, wait until we take this, wait till you take the trophy away. We signed the number one running back in the portal. You're on your way out now. You're never going to beat us again, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just thought, man, it was just everybody flying everywhere. I was like, I can't anymore. I got to put this away.
They put Beater on a spinner, man. They was putting you all over the place.
And listen, I had myself. I had to sleep with one foot on the floor. It was a rough night Monday night, man. It was a lot of fun. You know, when they got the interception, Mikey Stanverstill got the interception at the end of the game. I jump up, go crazy, hugged a complete stranger, and turned around and ordered a bottle of champagne. No idea, no clue why.
Dang.
This felt right.
Hey, we're too old to be drinking like that.
On a week,
you telling?
Me and Chase was messaging back and forth while the game was being played, just kind of giving our analysis and takes. And I remember at halftime, I asked him, what do you think about this game so far? Michigan's up big and whatnot. And we both kind of agreed to this point is that if this was going to turn into a track meet kind of a game, I liked Washington's chance to win it because their defense is built for track meet kind of atmospheres. But if it was going to turn into smash mouth, which is exactly what it did, Michigan is going to win this game by a good little margin. Michael Penix Jr. got beat up like crazy. And you can't say enough about that one corner, Will Johnson, on Michigan secondary. He was the one that got one of the interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was all over the place, making tackles. I know he committed a couple penalties too and whatnot. That defense, they played really great like a unit. You know, I mean, we like to take the individual pieces and stuff like that when we analyze college football and draft prospects. But that whole Michigan unit, they didn't even look like that even when Aiden Hutchinson and Dax Hill and David Ojabo was playing back there.
Yeah.
But they looked great. It reminds me of the Baltimore Ravens unit on defense. Like, obviously, they got Roquan Smith and, you know, some stars all over the place. But, bro, like, you can't say enough about the job that Jim Harbaugh did, man, with that Michigan's defensive side of the unit, bro. J.J. McCarthy, I mean, I don't really give him the credit for winning the game, but he didn't screw it up. You know?
That's true.
So, and they kept running the ball even when the run game wasn't there at times because eventually the hole was going to bust open and then, boom, they're done. Here they go. So,
funny you say that, Justin, man, because Mike McDonald used to be the Michigan defensive coordinator in 2021 and went to the Baltimore Ravens. So we know that whole thing. But I do want to give a shout out to Jesse Minter though. Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald, man. Like I know the last couple years Michigan's gone to the playoff 3 years in a row, but it's been that defense though. That defense has taken a new identity, and it's been a very aggressive one. And it's been a lot of deception, but at the same time, it's been a lot of aggression and a lot of just making plays and executing. And that's what you want in the defense. A defense that's just, going to get after a quarterback and put fear in the opponent. And Michigan did that.
Jesse Minter from 2017 to 2020 was also at the Baltimore Ravens.
What the hell?
So there's a lot of connections going on there, man. A lot of
Harbaugh bloodline, bro.
Yeah. They share some coaches there.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it. But hey, this is not a Michigan podcast. It's a Bengals podcast. So let's get to work. All right, welcome football fans and Cincinnati Bengals fans. You've caught us at Running Through the Jungle, and I've got the whole crew here with me. I got Justin Lacey and Chase Younts doing a marathon today. Already recorded 2 shows. They're on their 3rd. And of course, I got Tim Lyons bundled up in the Pacific Northwest. Gentlemen, how you guys doing? And welcome to the show. Back again. I got a little sad. I got to be honest with you. When I started putting together everything for today, I was on this high from Michigan winning national championship. And then I was realizing, like, oh, Bengals aren't in the playoffs. I'll start putting it together.
Yeah,
that hurts. It hurts. Look,
it does.
But here's the thing. I'm the realist. We all realists here. And I'm not saying I'm the one that's the realist out of all of them. No. The Bengals did not play their way to a playoff spot this year. Okay. And the easiest testament to that is they went 0-5 in the division to start. And then they finished obviously 1-5. But are we really going to talk about that junior varsity defense that they saw against the Browns? No. Okay. Let's just be real here. I didn't like their chances if it was a full out, all out game with all of their starters going against our team at that time constructed. I didn't like the Bengals' chances. They don't really match up well with the Browns anyways. So we were very fortunate that they clinched to rest their starters a week before that. And we was able to get a nice little gimme win. But you know what? Again, I wanted the Bengals to beat their ass, and they did. And they demolished them, even though I did see some of the same problems towards the end of the game. But they just didn't play their way into the postseason this year, even with their lofty expectations. They had a lot of adversity, but I'm also very positive. More of a positive outlook is they finished with a winning record. They manufactured 9 wins, even though it was 9-10 was I was looking for with Jake Browning playing QB. It was a nice little entertaining run. Got to give it to him. You know, Zach Taylor had pretty much shown that he can coach his team to a winning record even without his star quarterback. So while we're disappointed, it hurts, but it's okay because now we get to talk about actual playoff games. Even though it sucks that our Bengals ain't there, I still feel like that the Bengals will be there for the next few years to come. So I'm not even going to press myself too much on it.
No, and I agree with you. And we talked about it at nauseum about how we went into that. We were basically looking at would we have a gut check moment? Would the team fight and bond together? And kind of looking and seeing how the youngsters did and improved, and did the offensive line improve? And the defensive line, we found out, did not. But kind of along those things, we're going to break down the AFC playoffs as they go through their entirety, because really going to focus AFC Central and AFC focused on this program, because those are the teams we got to beat in the Super Bowl, and that's where we want to be. We're also going to give our Super Bowl predictions, but we're going to start, and we're going to do this every week now going forward until we get through the entire team. We're going to start with a little bit of breakdown of position by position group, right? So where I want to start with this grading is in the quarterback room. Very interesting year for the quarterback room. Started off with a hobbled Joe Burrow, ended up with an out for the season Joe Burrow. So we got to kind of pull ourselves through the muck there. But I'm going to throw this over to Chase, because Chase, you said you did this homework before you even knew we were going to do this. You've been going through and grading these guys. So I want to get your take on it and see where you got the quarterback room right now for the Bengals in 2023.
The funny thing is, out of all the positions possible, this is the one that I have not even written out yet. But
that's awesome.
I've thought about it a little bit. When you're looking at everything that goes into account for the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe that you're looking at the quarterbacks, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 2-1 as a group. I'd give it a B+. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too, too open about it, a little, giving a helping hand there. But we saw when Joe Burrow played the first 4 games of the season, he didn't look like himself because he wasn't himself. The first game against the Browns was not well. The second game against the Ravens, he played okay, but had a crucial interception, but we already knew he wasn't well. Third and fourth game, it was the same kind of thing, and the defense stepped up and beat the Rams. When you saw Joe Burrow, whatever happened, maybe it was him wearing the Jordans week 5 against the Cardinals, and he just kept going forward. I mean, he looked like, in that 4 weeks, I think he was the best quarterback in football for 4 weeks. I don't think anyone can deny that. There's obviously people that are recently biased, like, oh, it was Brock Purdy, oh, it was Dak Prescott. No, during that time frame of week 5 to week 9, Joe Burrow was the best quarterback in the National Football League for about a month. All right. We were all talking about it, like, man, the Bengals are back, all this stuff. All right. And then we get to that point where he gets hurt, and we don't know what's going on with Jake Browning. All right. We have no idea what's going on with him. Steelers game, not so great. But then he had that magical look against the Jaguars. You're like, is this really happening right now? A lot of stuff was broken that night. But Browning kept elevating his play, and they really did run a lot of the same stuff from the playbook that they ran with Joe Burrow. Jake Browning is no Joe Burrow. But if you told me before Thanksgiving that Jake Browning was going to walk in and go 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, I'd say, well, probably about 500 at that rate. But he really did a good job for what it was worth. It was just a bunch of other pieces that really didn't step up in that regard. But I'd give the quarterback room a B+. I think there was a lot. It was the season of roller coasters, and that's how you could, sum it up as a quarterback.
I dig that. Justin, how do you see it? You agree with Chase? You got somewhere around that B, or do you see it different?
Oh no, I absolutely agree with everything he said there. And just to add a little bit more to it. Now, I'm not going to copy off the grading actually as he gave it a B+. I'm a little bit harsher. I'll give it a B-, just because my expectations of what I expected out of Joe Burrow, that kind of dwindles that grade a little bit farther down. Joe Burrow's a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. And when he's playing at his best, he's top 1. Over guys like Patrick Mahomes, even with the accolades. I don't care. But he didn't play like that until you saw the health finally came in. Again, not his fault with the calf injury, not his fault with the seasonal ending wrist injury that he had there. As you mentioned, Chase, this is exactly why I have a silver lining of glass half full approach when it comes to the season in a nutshell, and why I do take some positive out of it. Because for that stretch that Burrow was playing out of his mind, the Bengals were regarded as one of the 3 dangerous teams in a conference, along with the Ravens and the Chiefs at the time. And we knew that if the season would have held up with Burrow playing the way that he would have gotten the Bengals to a real championship contention level caliber style play. Just happened to also be in the simultaneously against the Ravens, who were also doing the same thing too. But that didn't happen. And I felt like that when it finally happened, it was too little, too late. You dug yourself way too deep in the hole. I would have elevated this more into a B+, maybe even an A-, even with the injury, that he would have gotten a win against one of the 2 division foes week 1 or week 2, preferably against the Browns. More, whoever, I don't care. Whether if it was losing against the Browns but beat the Ravens, or losing against the Ravens or beat the Browns, whatever the case it may be. But the fact that he didn't really elevate his own play and adjusted his own window of opportunity there when he could have, that's why I'm a little bit harsh on the grading because of Burrow. And then Jake Browning, he was fun to watch. And it's funny because we went into the season not knowing what the hell we had at backup quarterback. We were screaming to go get somebody. Jake Brown ended up being everything we wanted and more at the backup quarterback position, to where now fans feel pretty comfortable with the security blanket that we have there. Because if something were to happen for Burrow where he missed a couple of games, Brown can come in there and rescue you no matter how tough the opponent may seem. He's already went through a lot of adversity himself. So I'll give it a solid B-, even though I will not disagree with anybody if you give it a B+ or B or even an A-, based off of everything that was stated there.
It's funny because I have a question in my mind, like, if we would have known, because in preseason and in camp and everything, it didn't look like we had a backup quarterback. It really didn't. It didn't look like we had one. If we would have had Jake Browning playing then, like he did when he got his chance in the season, I wonder if Joe Burrow doesn't sit that first week or maybe the first 2.
Right.
Especially the first game in Cleveland was a monsoon. And there, what I mean? Like a slip there, it's easy to, slip in that mud and muck and strain the calf more and do things like that. I wonder if we knew what we had there in Jake Browning, like if this same thing happened again next year. Oh God, knock on wood. Would we sit him for that first game or 2 and let him get healthy? I kind of think we would, to be honest with you.
Possibility.
So for that reason, because I'm with you, Justin. I thought I saw a flash of 4 games for Joe Burrow. That's not enough. That's not where I grade him. But I think Jake Browning let me think that we have a good quarterback room, not just one of the best quarterbacks on the planet. So we actually have a good quarterback room. So for that reason, I gave him a solid B. Tim, what'd you have him ranked in your gradings?
I'm like torn right now because, if Jake Browning, like you just said, if Jake Browning came out and played preseason like he did these last, these games that he started for us, and actually showed promising, what if, would we have played Joe or not? Joe Burrow, he's an A+ guy when he's healthy, but we've been unfortunately seeing, you know, the calf injury, then he is an A+ guy through those wins, and then he breaks his wrist. And then Jake comes in, and we honestly nobody knew what, like everybody said, we didn't know what we were getting. Nobody knew what we were getting. And I did see Jake play during his college career, and I was like, well, is Jake the way to go, or was AJ McCarron the way to go, being a veteran and everything? And then they made this decision to bring Browning on, having him be the starter. So I'm going to give them a B as well. I was going to say a B-, maybe almost a C+, but I'll give them a B because, of the beginning of the season with Joe being hurt, the situation that we were dealt. And then, Jake did show those flashes, and, Burrow was being Burrow once he was 100%. And, so I'm gonna give them that B because I think with what the wins that we did get. Now, if we would have beat, the Steelers at least one game, or, it would have been a whole different story. But
I would have put
I'm
an
gonna give.
A- to me.
Yeah, oh, definitely. It would have, with no doubt. We would have at least beat the Steelers once. I would definitely be giving them an A-, maybe just an A. But I'd say a B. I'd say a B.
Hey, if we would have beat the Steelers one time, we'd be playing this weekend.
Right now,
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fact. That's a fact.
Facts.
Thanks, Chase, for ruining my day, buddy. Appreciate
Sorry,
Yep,
I ruined myself too. I won't sleep tonight.
Well, listen, I've kind of this is our first day of going through the grading the position players and everything. I try to be easy, like we're going to ease into this. So we start with that quarterback room. We're all kind of in the same agreement there with our quarterback room. The next position group I want to do, we're going to do 2 of them today. So this is the only other one we got. And I'm going to throw it right back to you, Tim. Wide receiver room. Where do you have us graded this year for 2023 in our wide receiver room?
Well, we got Jamar Chase. He played fairly well this year. He didn't have as many touchdowns as he probably wanted. T. Higgins was kind of is he healthy? Is he not healthy? Tyler Boyd, flash in the pan, dropping some passes that he shouldn't have dropped. But I love Tyler Boyd. Don't get me wrong. So don't go sending me hate mail, Tyler. I love you, bro. And then of course, we brought Yoshi and Irwin and Charlie Jones. I'm going to give the performance. I think if Tyler Boyd would have caught those passes that he would have caught, T. Higgins would have played a little bit more, and maybe if Jamar Chase didn't get hurt, unfortunately, I definitely give them I say an A-. But with what happened, I'm going to give them a B+. Definitely B+.
All right, I can dig it. Justin, you see it the same way? You got a little different? What's your take on this wide receiver group for this year?
Again, I'm a little harsh. I gave him a C+. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I do agree. While I do agree with everything that Tim just mentioned, we had to add some youth to this core. The trio did not play like the trio that we all knew and loved, though. That's the downside of it. Jamar Chase, as much as I champion, Jamar on every single day of the occasion, he had a chance to propel his name in the top 1 sweepstakes of the wide receiver rankings in the NFL. We mentioned you and me, B Dirt, specifically the preseason wide receiver rankings. I believe that both of us had him listed as number 3, right behind Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. But we just felt like that with his explosiveness and his potential to elevate beyond measure, that he was going to at some point take over the number 1 spot. After this season, I don't feel that way. I still feel like he's the number 3 in that top 5 range, whatever you want to rank him, and he's still my guy. But outside of the Arizona Cardinals game and maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars game, he has some volume production here and there. But what was the main game? This was the Jamar Chase game. Outside of Arizona, which he scored 3 touchdowns, almost had 200 yards, had a boatload of catches. You didn't really see that. And that's kind of that was really unfortunate. And as for T. Higgins, I understand he was battling with the thing in his mind regarding his contract. He's in the contract season. He battled a few injuries, but he also has some lackluster production throughout the season too, with a few drop passes of his own, along with Tyler Boyd. While I'm very happy that he did reestablish him and reemerge himself as a guy that could be the number 1, if a guy like Jamar's out, he can take over like we saw against the Vikings or against the Steelers the second time. He just wasn't consistent enough like that, how we know that he can be. And again, a lot of it does come to correlation of how the offense ended up changing its stripes a bit with Joe Burrow with his health, and then Jake Browning being new and trying to get the reps under his belt. And also a part of it is, have they adjusted to the defenses that they go against? Because I'm sorry, I feel like that average NFL defenses have caught up to what the Bengals have done, and that it feels like that they're very easy to game plan, even though they're not easy to game plan. And I already mentioned Tyler Boyd. It might be his last go around with the Bengals, but he wasn't Boyd. That I've always kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for Boyd to have that monster game, and I don't think it ever really happened. Yeah, he had over 100 yards against the Houston Texans, but like Tim mentioned, he had the critical drop end zone pass that would have probably won us the game, and that hurts. He's had quite a few of those now, and unfortunately, I don't want him to obviously be remembered for that, but I think this is just one of those moments where maybe it's time to move on. If you're Tyler Boyd and the Bengals, like, hey, look, man, you've had a fantastic career. We obviously love to bring you back and resign you, but your options, we want you to explore other interests out there for yourself. And we just honestly don't know what we got in the young guys. Charlie Jones, Yossi Voss, although we like their potential, I do not like those guys as being my 2 and 3. I still want T. Higgins. Okay. I still need T. Higgins there. I want Jamar Chase there. And again, say what we want about the efforts of Tyler Boyd, not necessarily the efforts, the production of Tyler Boyd this year is still better than Yoshi Voss and Charlie Jones. Trenton Irwin, as solid as he is, and he's always been a solid rock, but he's not Tyler Boyd, So, and I've made this statement before regarding our wide receiver core, is that there is a nice trio, but then there is a little bit of a drop off. And that's no shade to no fault at their own. They just haven't grown up yet to show that they can take over those respective positions of a 2 and 3 if needed be. So a lot of this offseason talk, I know a lot of this regarding T. Higgins for the most part is going to end up rectifying itself, because who's going to replace him? And I don't want to go to the draft. I need T. Higgins. That's him and Jamar. Those your pillars, those your cornerstones. That's the core of your offense, along with Joe Burrow, obviously. But they didn't perform like that this season. So that's why I'm a little harsher and I give him a C+ instead.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think a lot of what I saw from our team was scheming and opportunity. Opportunity wasn't there. I expected, especially Charlie Jones, to get more playing time. Didn't happen. I was really upset with some of the play calling. I would like T back. If we don't get T back, and Tim and I were talking about this backstage before you guys got on. If we don't get T back, I want to tag him and trade. Because I think you got to get a first round pick for him, because you've got too many needs. And if you don't have him, I agree with you. You got to get one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers in this draft. Somebody with some more size. Charlie Jones, I think, could be a nice compliment in that slot. position and whatnot, but 6 foot tall. He's not. I mean, he's not a compliment to really what you have in Jamar Chase. You get similar shorter guys, 6 foot 6'1". You need somebody over there 6'4", 6'5", and that would be highly useful and physical. I think we need as well. So, Chase, where did you have this wide receiver group ranked?
Man, I'm gonna go with a B-. You guys, like bug spray, right? Like you have like I think it's called off, right? That like the off thing. They have like off clips and stuff that you can just clip on your hip and all that. It felt like the Bengals receivers were just kind of wearing that this year. It wasn't anything like they were terrible or wasn't anything they were like spectacular. It was off. The model of consistency was just inconsistent. Guy would have someone would have a big game and other guys wouldn't really put up what they should be putting up. When looking at Jamar Chase, Jamar, great season, 100 catches for 1,216 yards, 7 touchdowns. But again, like Justin mentioned, it seemed like teams have been kind of figuring this offense out when it comes to the receivers. This is something that I, wanted to bring up. Jamar Chase averaged, I believe, 18.1 yards per catch as a rookie, and everybody didn't know how to defend him. A lot of people were playing cover one, man to man, all that stuff. If it's man to man defense, we're gonna take a shot downfield. Over the last 2 seasons, though, Jamar Chase has averaged only 12 yards a catch in back-to-back seasons. You're telling me a guy with big play explosiveness, is only averaging 12 yards per catch? Tyreek Hill, everyone knows Tyreek Hill can burn you deep and do this and do that. But he's still averaging like 17, 18 yards a catch. Okay. And that goes back to a lot of scheme. Really a lot of it is scheme. But at the same time, though, it's just, again, it's a little confusing in that regard for Jamar Chase. Hopefully he can, have a better season next year and, we can have some more downfield attack. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, it's just off. Okay. T. Higgins been hurt. We know the hamstring injury is going to be a thing going forward. It's been a thing for the last couple of years. I remember seeing it before he got drafted. It was like, oh, this hamstring injury is going to linger. It's going to, linger for the rest of his career. And he's an automatic out to miss at least 3 games per season. So that's something that, to keep in mind with everything. But, if we bring him back, if we don't bring him back, whatever. And then Boyd, ever since he had that drop in the Super Bowl, I think it's just been a little bit different. I don't want to go back and pinpoint that on him specifically, but I think we'd all agree it's just been a little bit different with Tyler Boyd. And, I've appreciated his time here, but we'll see, what goes on if that was his swan song with that. And then the other receivers, Yoshi Voss stepped up, in some regard, especially in the red zone. Trenton Irwin stepped up a couple of games and stuff. But yeah, there is a significant drop off from our receiver 3 to receiver 4. And, we got to try to figure that stuff out. But, just a really off, weird year. I like saying it's 2006, but yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna hold them as accountable for certain things I don't think they had control over, like scheme, like whatever in the hell is tipping everybody off about the bubble screen, because something is. I don't know if it's the play call. I don't know if it's an alignment. I don't know if somebody leans forward when they're doing it or back when they're not, whatever it is. There's something the second half of the season that was tipping people off on those bubble screens to wide receivers. So that was a big thing. I always thought, and listen, when Jake Browning came in, the security blanket idea was to throw 2-yard passes to Jamar Chase to get him warmed up. That also gives a downslide to this year's Jamar Chase production, I think. Where earlier in the year, I thought he had some better games. I think later in the year, it was a lot of check down Charlie stuff. So I'm going to give him a solid B, but there is definitely going to be an elephant in the room. We're going to talk a lot this offseason about T. Higgins. And do we re-sign him? Do we not re-sign him? Do we tag him? Do we trade him? Is he worth $24 million plus a year? because that's what they're saying the going rate is for him. They said he's going to get 4 years, $100 million.
Man, I didn't. Hey, Heitzy, how you doing? Didn't expect to see you today.
Yeah, like if those are watching on YouTube, we had to drop a picture of T. Higgins on there. Look, man, I know it's going to be a weird offseason when it comes to those offseason discussions, contracts, and all that stuff. We just hope that it don't get to the Jesse Bates level. We don't need that. Personally, I think the Bengals extend him. I think they just know that he's special. You know, make it work, figure it out. Stop letting Dave Mulligetta. I know we're veering off into a whole conversation topic, but stop letting that agent Dave Mulligetta ruin your books. You know, I mean, out negotiate you, and because that's what it takes. If people know that they eventually want to be able to leave Cincinnati, they're just going to hire that agent, and you don't want to be easily readable like that as the front office. So get it done. You know, that's all I'll say about that.
My only devil's advocate to you is for $100 million, I'd like to get 2 good hamstrings. That's my devil's advocate. That's my devil's advocate. Yeah, and with that, sure. with that, I'm going to ask the fans to go ahead and hit that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcast, go ahead, hit that thumbs up again for us. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, share us with a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back, Bengals fans. My dog has not liked this break that we just took. The silence has got him in a tizzy. He's crying in his crate, but I can't be trusted because he's trying to eat at furniture. So it is what it is. I apologize if you hear him crying, but I can't have him eating furniture. Can't do that. So we did a little something the past couple of weeks here, and we got to see where we went. Check, raise, fold. I have threatened Justin that I will mute his mic if he mentions the fact that the first week I did pick the Oakland Raiders to get into playoffs. I digress. But I'm not going to mention that you just said the wrong
name too. It was Vegas that? Raiders. That you said Oakland Raiders.
Oh yeah, Vegas Raiders, Oakland, Los Angeles. All of the Raiders.
Myself.
All of the Raiders. But yeah, listen, I got you queued up here because I know the way you like it. I know you like a little background, so we're gonna get some background. We're gonna get some background music playing here for you, and we got the visuals. So let me hear what you got for the AFC Playoff Breakdown.
All right, welcome to another edition of Check, Raise, Fold. All right. The last couple of weeks has been fun, but now we have a final version picture of the AFC playoffs. And we did not see the Steelers making the playoffs coming. We did not see that at all. They ended up sleepwalking their way to the 7th seed. The closest ones that actually had this damn near identical, I will have to say, myself, picking everybody except Pittsburgh, because I still had the Jags somehow still making it at the 7th seed, and Chase, I think. But sadly, what caused the demise is my man Tim Lyons selling his all but stock on the Buffalo Bills, folding those pocket queens.
You can say what you want. I still ain't sold on the Bills.
Oh my God!
Look, you know what? We can have this argument all day long. I ain't impressed with the Bills, and I don't care. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Look, that's fine. But the beginning of the Check, Raise, Fold segment was in luau of what do you like as far as their chances of getting a playoff spot locked up, and you folded immediately.
I did. You're right.
Now they got the number 2 seed. But however, I agree with you in certain avenues because I am still feeling very queasy about picking them in certain matchups. However, we got a nice little rundown of slate of games here for this wildcard weekend. Got the Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills at Steelers. Steelers at Bills, Texans, Browns. Nice little rundown for a wildcard weekend here. So check, raise, fold on the Houston Texans covering the spread and pulling off an upset against the Cleveland Browns. Chase, I'm going to run it back to you. Check, raise, fold on the Houston Texans pulling off of this upset.
It's 2.5 points, right? It's 2.5 the spread. right?
Yep.
Home dog.
I'm gonna fold, but it's gonna be very close. I think the Browns are gonna win this game in a close one. And again, I will mention this. I do not want this team to win at all. I will state it out here. I don't care, okay? But I'm not gonna go into more, explicit words or anything like that. I don't want them to win. But I don't know when the Flacco train, when the magic's going to stop and everything. And I love CJ Stroud, seeing him, doing what he's doing and stuff. Do I think they can win this game? Yes. Do I want them to win this game? Yes. Am I sold on it? I got to fold. I got to fold and just be like, all right, whatever. And just sit back and see what happens. So I'll fold.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm gonna do a little easy one for you, Tim, because I've already been picking at you already with the Bills. Look, they are getting 10.5 points. There's 10.5 points. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 points favored against the Buffalo Bills. Check race poll. Do the Buffalo Bills cover that spread at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I don't think they'll cover the spread, but I think that they'll win the game against the Steelers because, it's in Buffalo. I'm going to assume it's probably going to snow or just be cold as hell and raining. I don't know what the weather's like. I know probably going to be snowing. Who knows? And, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and he's a big Steelers fan. And I was like, you guys got a 50-50 shot of beating the Bills. Well, the thing is about the Bills is their run game. I'm not talking about just their running back. I'm talking about Josh Allen. And the Steelers, they don't have no TJ Watt. They don't have TJ Watt sitting on the field. So just like Brandon does is he looks at who's the two best players on the field for the team, for one team and then for the other team. That best player on the field is not playing playing in Buffalo, TJ Watt. So I'm gonna take the Bills to win, but I think that they win by 8 points.
Okay. I like that. I kind of like that too.
So I'm checking on them. I'm not folding on them this week. I'm checking on them.
Look, the Bills got a number of favorable matchups. This playoff matchup can go exactly how they've always wanted it. A home game against Kansas City in the next round. But they obviously got to get through Pittsburgh first. And as you did mention, they have no TJ Watt, who's the heart and soul of that team.
Right.
And the Steelers are just a mere participating appearance in this playoff run. We didn't see them making the playoffs. We folded on them multiple times. They shouldn't have made the playoffs, but the Jacksonville Jaguars choked again, and they decided to just, I don't want to go to the playoffs anymore, and that put Pittsburgh in. So I'm with you, though. Bills are going to win, but they do not cover. They also have a number of mistakes as well, too, that team makes. Josh Allen, depending on how many times he's going to keep airmailing the ball into the secondary, I don't know.
Yep.
So I kind of fall into line with the agreement with you there. So that leaves me with the third game, and Beater, I'm gonna toss it to you this time. We got the Chiefs and Dolphins. The line on here is 4.5 points. Kansas City at Arrowhead. Now this game is being played on Peacock. I mentioned this on a different show with Chase. Now, if you want to get the exclusive rundown on that, be sure to check that out. The Dolphins, I know they're upset that they didn't get a chance to get a crack at this division to win it. But I think that the silver lining was that you get to play this version of the Kansas City Chiefs and not a potential rematch what would have been against Buffalo, who has your number at this point. And I think that you're looking for a way to advance through the postseason. So Kansas City's getting 4.5 points spread. Do you think they cover that spread and win that game?
So, again, going into cold weather, Tyreek Hill obviously has played in cold weather and whatnot. But you know, when you're having a dinged up ankle and some of that stuff, it gets stiff in that weather. Tua, on the other hand, does not play good in cold weather. They are a mash unit right now. Justin and Chase, you're too young to understand. MASH was a show about a military hospital way back in the day.
I I'm familiar with the show. I had to go to bed.
I kid. But yeah. So listen,
2000s kid.
Their best 3 pass rushers are out. Their second best defensive back is dinged up, may not play. Their 2 starting linebackers are out. So defense has some major holes in it. I think what you're going to see, a Hall of Fame coach finally realize, okay, enough is enough. We tried to right the ship and work through some of the issues we had throughout the year. But there's a simple recipe for the Kansas City Chiefs playing winning football. Run the damn ball and play great defense, because those are the 2 things you're capable of right now. Kelsey looks like he's lost a step. Rashee Rice looks like a good wide receiver, but you don't have the supporting cast. You don't have Rashee Rice is not quite great yet. Could he be eventually? Maybe. But run the ball, play great defense, and beat this team. I like Kansas City to cover the 4.5. And I really like, if you want to go over to Pay Dirt and listen, I really like a prop bet on this one. Pacheco over 65.5 yards. There's some more prop bets over there for you to dig up if you want to go check them out.
I'm with it. I'm actually with it. Look, this is obviously the classic trap game to think like, if you were buying all the stock into the Kansas City Chiefs going 1 and done in the playoffs, you might not want to do it this weekend. This does have the recipe in the makings of the classic Mahomes, Andy Reid win in Arrowhead for the first round, and people are going to jump right back on the bandwagon again. And if the Bills pull off the win against the Steelers, which we think that they could, then you're going to set that up as a round 2 against Buffalo, but this time it'll be in Orchard Park. Yeah, people are going to probably do the overcorrection at that point and be like, oh, let's put money on the Chiefs to beat the Bills in the playoffs when it counts. At that point, let's pump the brakes, So again, it's going to be a fun little matchup. Again, as a Bengals fan, it is very depressing talking about division rivals and our also newly found AFC rival in Kansas City being in this situation where if Burrow would have just simply stayed healthy and the Bengals continue to play great ball, we will be in this situation. So, but I'm not going to cry about spilled milk because it's already done. We're moving on. We're cleaning up. We get to talk about real playoff football now. Now, I want to hear y'all Super Bowl predictions. Who do you have coming out in the Super Bowls for both the AFC and the NFC side? Because I want to get these jotted down now. And who you have winning it if you have a plus. So, Chase, I'm going to flip it to you now. AFC, NFC matchup or the Super Bowl.
All right. Wow. This is just the year where I'm just like, damn it, the Bengals could have stepped in and had a chance. But again, milk, spilt, cleaned. Here we go. I look at it. Something is just telling me that the Buffalo Bills are going to go. Tim, I know.
Tim, I know you don't want to hear that.
But something is just telling me the team has gotten hot at the right moment. And you know what this reminds me of?
Don't say it, Chase. Don't say it.
I don't know if we're thinking the same thing, but the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they won their division. The Buccaneers at one point were 7-5 going into the bye week. And the Bucs reeled off a ton of games and just kept winning. I know they were a wild card team and everything, but I think the Bills, they're gonna have a chance if the Chiefs win. They win. They're gonna have a chance to have Patrick Mahomes in their backyard. Josh Allen don't beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. It's known that Josh Allen beats Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, though. But that'll be the first matchup between the two that took place in Buffalo since Week 6 of 2020 on a Monday 5:00 game. A lot's changed in that time frame. I don't know what it is, but something is telling me. The Lord is telling me that the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I'm not trying to be the prophet or whatever, but I'm not even going to go into that route. But the Bills, and I'm gonna go with the Niners. I know it's a popular pick and everything, but I think the Bills and the Niners is going to end up being the Super Bowl this year. I think when they're playing their best, nobody can touch them, and I just think the Niners are somewhat destined to get back to it. That would be 3 straight NFC Championship games in a row, and I think they finally get over the hump with that third time being a charm. So I got Bills Niners, I think the Niners will win it, but again, that would be great to just see no divisional opponents get the Super Bowl and the NFC win it. That's what I'm kind of meddling right now, but go on.
Before I get to the two of you guys, I had that written down myself too. Again, Tim,
I swear we did not meet up. We did not
plan this.
Nah, we did not. Look,
something I don't want to usher the same kind of philosopher kind of standpoint regarding the Buffalo Bills, but I don't know why something's telling me that this team is finally going to make it out of the AFC now that Joe Burrow and the Bengals are not in it, because that was their real gauntlet. You did already mention when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, people ain't been watching. They actually have flipped the script on the Chiefs, bro, and this time it's going to be in Orchard Park. You finally get a matchup in Orchard Park. Again, this is assuming that both the Chiefs and the Bills win their first games, which we predict that they will. And I think that this playoff run is going to be set up for them for success to the point where I feel like that they've gotten really good on defense to overcome the injuries to be able to pull off an upset win at Baltimore if it comes down to them going at Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. Or it might be on their home turf if Cleveland makes it past round 1 and round 2, and then it goes back to Buffalo for the title game. We don't know. But at the end of the day, something's telling me Buffalo's going to make it out. I think Josh Allen finally gets his reprieved moment of making it to the Super Bowl, but I do not have them winning it. I am going to go with the 49ers. I just think that team has always been dangerous. I'm not being fooled by their loss against the Cardinals week 18. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, week 18, they took a L to the Cardinals or the Rams. I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. And then a beat down of the Ravens, which really didn't feel like a beat down because the game was kind of nicely close for a while until they kind of took off. Something telling me that I'm just going to just stick with Buffalo for the AFC, even though I know Baltimore's sitting right there, your dab smacking your face, been rolling teams. But the playoffs are weird, man. So we kind of in agreement there, Chase. Now, Tim, you've heard us pick the Bills. I know this is a team that you folded twice. And I know you're probably not going to pick the Bills, but I need to hear your Super Bowl predictions.
So my Super Bowl predictions, I'm riding AFC North. I hope the AFC North plays well during this playoffs. But I believe that, the Steelers, unfortunately, that's the hand they were dealt. They're playing against the Bills. Ain't nothing I can do about that. I wish them the best. But I think in the end, it's going to come down to the Ravens and the Bills playing for the AFC Championship, and the Ravens are going to win. It's just the Ravens are just set up to where their defense is complemented by the offense. That defense is complemented by the offense so much. Lamar Jackson and Gus the Bus and Zay Flowers and that offensive line, and then Roquan Smith, Marlon, Humphreys. We can just name everybody else, but I believe that the AFC North is going to be our representative in the Super Bowl by the Ravens. And of course, by popular belief, I'm right there with you guys with the 49ers. The 49ers, they have played. I think they are the dominant team in the NFC North. Or excuse me, in the NFC. Sorry, I think they're the dominant team because as we've been seeing the Eagles playing, the Cowboys, it's either they're hot or they're not, and I think the 49ers are, they were up here, then they dropped down and had those losses, but then they're back up, and I think they're going to keep riding that wave, and it's going to be the 49ers versus the Ravens.
I actually respect that. And again, I understand this is not me hating on the Ravens why I decided to pick the Bills. It's just a weird matchup effect that I think Buffalo is going to be benefiting from. That's why I picked them. But yeah, you can't ignore what the Ravens are doing. Like the Ravens are They killing it. They have taken advantage of their matchups down the stretch of the season, even if it meant that them playing both times against the Bengals without a Joe Burrow healthy. You know, it's not their fault that they were just playing the schedule that they was dealt. It ain't their fault that the other team had suffered adversity before playing against them. They still had to show up and go out there and play. And they had a late bye. They had a late London game. They didn't usually when you play a London game or a game overseas, you're supposed to get a bye the following week to give you time to recover. They didn't get a bye. They kept playing and they kept winning. You got to give the respect to that. And man, how weird it will be to see the Ravens and the Michigan Wolverines. Nice little segue for you, be there coming. That both Harbaugh brothers end up with championships in the bookend the rest of the football season. So look, I'm not here to argue against that. So I mean, much respect to the Ravens, kudos to them. I still don't like them. I still can't stand their fan base, but I do give them props for how they went about this regular season. So be over to you now. You're the final pick, Super Bowl picks.
Oh, do I have an upset for you here, man?
You gonna say the Lions?
I'm not going to take the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to tell you why. I refuse to put my money on a quarterback that led the league in turnovers. Ain't my shtick. He got away with it in Miami last week because he got a kick return for a touchdown because a guy got hurt and took out another blocker. I'm not going to trust for that to happen every game in order for him to get out of his own way. So I'm not taking the Buffalo Bills. I'm taking the best team in the best division in football with the MVP. So Lamar Jackson going to go to the Super Bowl. And I got an upset because it's even money right now. If you can take the 49ers and the one of the two teams, either the 49ers and the Ravens, to win the Super Bowl versus the field, and it's even money right now. But I got somebody else in there, not the 49ers. I think the Cowboys are going to pull this off.
I was thinking that too.
And I'm just saying it because I look at how these teams are going to shuffle up. And the Cowboys aren't going to get to play, the 6 or 7 or they're going to get a 4 or 5 seed. I'd rather play the Bucks or the Eagles right now than I would the Rams or the Packers. So I start looking at their path through, and I think they have an easier path through. So
the Cowboys play the Packers.
So, yeah, they do. They play the Packers. Excuse me. On the next round, I'd rather play not if the Rams beat the Lions, I would rather play the Bucks or the Eagles. That's my thinking there. So
for sure. Got that.
I think I think this is probably the easiest matchup they've had. I think they're a well-rounded team. I think, Dak's got that experience. I think, McCarthy's got something to prove. I think they make it. Now, that said, I don't think it's much of a game. At 27-17, I'm taking the Ravens over the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Ravens get the parade.
Yeah, and quite frankly, it's going to suck seeing that as a division rival if that happens. But Lamar Jackson has played great all year long. And again, I don't mind. And I root for a guy like Lamar based off all he had to overcome as well, too, media-wise, and the perception of running quarterback-wise. But you also can't say enough things about the Dallas Cowboys this season, too. I know that they're the national brand that everybody likes to throw stones at. It's either you love them or you hate them. For many people, they hate it. I hate talking about the Cowboys, But I take this year in a nutshell, and I'd be like, I like what they've done so far this season. And as you said, it's about matchups. They get the Packers round 1. I don't see the Packers in Jordan Love, no matter how much I like what he's grown into, kind of like C.J. Stroud, even though he ain't C.J. Stroud. But I like what Jordan Love's done this season. Not enough to go on the road to be a red-hot Cowboys team, and that defense has been giving up a lot of points too.
Defensive backfield's not good for the Packers. Yeah.
And even if the Lions were to win against the Rams, which I'm rooting for the Lions in that game, I'm sorry. I want them to have their moment. Oh, yeah. I think that the Lions' moment will be ended right there. Okay, they win that playoff game, get the monkey off her back, the drought, kind of like the Bengals did round 1 in 2021. And then the next round, you got to go on the road to Dallas, and I don't think you'd be able to pull that off. It's going to be too much for you to handle at that point. And I think that still sets up a NFC championship between them and the 49ers, assuming the Niners get there, which we think they will. And I think that they're poised to pull off the win this time. Like they've already lost them 2 years straight in a row. Do they want to lose them for a third year in a row, even if it is in Santa Clara? I don't think the Cowboys want that happening again. But again, you got to actually beat the 49ers for me to kind of believe in you. And I haven't seen this version of the Cowboys do that. That's why I went with the Niners. Oh, sorry. That's why I went with the Niners at that point. But hey, a lot of good football is ahead of us, man. This is my favorite time of the year.
I just went because normally Chalk doesn't come home to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And I picked which side I thought Chalk had a more of an opportunity not to come home.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. You know what? Sticking with the AFC. So we got 2 with the Bills and 2 with the Ravens. 2 great picks when it comes, like 2 different teams. Like again, respectfully understand why you are not sold on the Bills. There are times I feel like I'm not either. They turn the ball way over too much, and Josh can lose you a game just as much as he can win the game. However, he has a really high ceiling, but so does Lamar Jackson. So it's all shaping up to be a really nice playoff odds here. So I'm excited for it, but that does end the check, raise, fold segment, even though it kind of ended a while back before the Super Bowl picks. But another fun segment of check, raise, and fold. So I love it.
I dig it. We just had the last few minutes here, and I kind of want to allude to what we're going to talk a little bit more about in weeks to come. You know, Black Monday, we know a lot of guys have lost jobs and whatnot. And now some rumors swirling around the Bengals camp. Yeah. Callahan might be interviewing. Mm-hmm. Do we expect Lou to interview? I mean, got a great history as a good leader and halftime adjustments and all that stuff, even though our defense was ranked 30th this year, I think it ended up being something like that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? I mean, Justin, I'll go to you. What do you think about Callahan interviewing? Do you think either one of these two guys? I mean, initial reaction, gut reaction. Do you think either one of these two guys end up leaving and not being back next year?
I'm sorry, Brian Callahan. I want him to get a head coaching job, and it's not because people think that I hate him. No, I don't hate him. I just think that the Bengals offense just need to finally show some evolution. I think a lot of another reasons why I was so critical of the grades that we gave the position group so far with the quarterback and wide receiver is because coaching is a part of that. I feel like the Bengals haven't really evolved past their scheme of what they always do, and so I feel like that if the Bengals are not going to be creative and bold and make the necessary change that need to be. I'm not saying you need to fire the person. I want them to get a coaching job opportunity as a head coach somewhere, so that way that can force the Bengals to go ahead and step outside their comfort zone. And I want to see Dan Pitcher as an offensive coordinator. So I'm rooting for him. So when I saw the initial gut reaction of the Panthers, we're scheduled to interview him first, and then the Chargers, and then the Titans, and it felt like that there's like all those resurfacing teams that need head coaches. Brian Callahan being a name being mentioned, I was like, cool. He needs to get his name in the circle because he's an offensive head coach. I'm sorry, he's an offensive-minded coach. That's where the trend of the league is going when it comes to hiring. Defensive-minded head coaches, it's disrespectful to defensive coaches because it feels like that they don't get no attention unless your defense is absolutely stacked that season. And I feel like Lou Anarumo was done a disservice. So we may see him back in track, but I was rooting for him to get a head coaching job at the end of the season too, because again, I want to see the evolution of where these schemes are going to go. And then for that to happen, our current coordinators got to take opportunity somewhere. So I'm pushing for that. I really am. I need to see that happen at some point.
Tim, I'm going to flip it over to you while my dog's over here screaming his head off. What do you think? Gut reaction? Do we see either one of our coordinators gone for next year?
I wasn't surprised when I saw Brian Callahan. I wouldn't be surprised if this week or next week or however much long it takes that we see Lou as being interviewed for a head coaching position. I wouldn't be surprised. Because if you look at what we've done. We'll throw this year's been out the door because it wasn't very impressive because of the injuries and all that. But look at last year. We were at the AFC. We were at the AFC Championship game. The year before that, we were at the Super Bowl. What Lou and Brian and Zach and the rest of the staff has done with the Bengals. Those guys deserve head coaching positions. Yeah, I agree with Justin. I think a fresher look. I'm not going to say. I'm not saying let's get rid of Brian Callahan. I'm not saying that at all. But a fresh look. A rejuvenation, we'll say, of the offense, and then maybe get Zach kind of letting that coordinator call the offense a little bit. During the season, depending on who it is. It would be refreshing. But I would also, of course, we want Brian Callahan back. Of course, we want Lou back. My biggest thing is I want Lou back more than anything. But then we look at this season. But last season, I think we were in the top 10 in defense last year. This year, it was in the 30s. So would I be surprised? Absolutely not. Because Lou and Brian, the team loves them. Cincinnati loves them. I would not be surprised at all. And whatever happens for them, I wish them the best and, wish them luck.
All right, Chase, I'll flip it over to you. What do you think? Do you see both of them coming back, neither of them coming back, or a mix?
Well, let me mention something from week 2, actually. I believe it was Andrew Catalon, Matt Ryan, and Tiki Barber on the call. And I think it might have been Matt Ryan that mentioned that that the head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator have all been in Cincinnati for longer than 3 years. They're the only team that's kept their coordinators for all the same coordinators for 3 straight years. They've had them for 5, potentially going on 6. I want to see Brian Callahan get an opportunity to be a head coach. I want to see what really happens with it, though. I fumbled the words a minute ago, but I want to see what happens with this, though. Is it really him that's calling the plays? Is it really, Zach Taylor? Who, what I'm saying? It's a lot of mystery that's going on. If Brian Callahan leaves, Dan Pitcher will end up being the offensive coordinator. I think that's what a lot of people have kind of seen around the block, and that's, probably what would end up happening if Callahan gets a job. So am I open to him coming back? Yeah, but do I want him to go get his money and go be a head coach? I would prefer that more if that was the case. Lou, on the other hand, there was some things he had to deal with this year with some guys being in and out the lineup and everything, but they got to get tougher in the trenches. I think Lou's going to come back. I think the head coaching talks have kind of died down now, but his thing is he's got to get guys that are going to be tougher in the trenches and get more out of them. And that's going to be a big thing going forward. Tougher in the trenches and speed on the back end. So I think, I think I would be, welcome to have both of them back, but more having Lou back than Brian Callahan. I just want to see what the offense can do and what, how can it evolve going forward. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, here's the one issue I have, and I want to make sure everybody understands this, and I preface this. I do not have this issue with Brian Callahan. I don't have this issue with the Cincinnati Bengals, the organization, or anybody it's affiliated with.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have an issue with this with the NFL. I don't understand, with all signs point to Zach Taylor makes those calls and calls the offense. And now Brian Callahan is going to get an opportunity to be a head coach. Matt Nagy didn't call the plays in Kansas City, got an opportunity to be a head coach. But for whatever reason, Eric Bieniemy had to go somewhere else in a lateral move and be an offensive coordinator where he could call plays. It's absolute horseshit. So
preach.
That's my take on that. Listen, all the best for Brian Callahan. He deserves everything, all the comeuppance he had. He's been great here. I've watched our evolution and the way we've built the team. I like it. Do I always agree with the play calling? No. Am I ever always going to agree with it? No. So that's what it is. But that's the note I'm gonna go out on this one. Good for him, but it brings a little something else to light, and it's just I don't understand. I think Eric Bieniemy needs his shot too.
Mm-hmm. No,
So with that said, we're gonna get on out of here. But check us out next week as we are running through the jungle.